You're listening to the Goalpreneur podcast with Courtney Spaeth, the go-to place for ambitious and driven female entrepreneurs looking to elevate their business and life. Each episode is packed with actionable insights to help you dream bigger, think bolder, and achieve your next level of success. No playing small here, only strategies and encouragement to help you shine. And now, here's your host, educator, personal development enthusiast, and holistic esthetician, Courtney Spaeth.
Hello, friends. Thanks again for joining me on another Friday bonus episode of the Goalpreneur podcast. So my daughter graduated from UW-Oshkosh over the weekend, so I flew up from sunny Florida to very foggy Wisconsin, and am recording this podcast in my hotel lobby. So that's the perk of working for yourself. You can still travel and do the things that you love and create those memories without having to miss work. And to be honest, I can tend to be a little bit of a workaholic. I could easily allow myself to work for 10 hours and let those hours just fly by so I can get a project or multiple projects done that I need to. But I've been very intentional in setting work boundaries so that I can be focused and productive and still be there for what matters most. It's the best of both worlds. And today I want to chat about a topic that I know so many of us struggle with, and it is saying no. So let me start with this. Saying no is not selfish. Let me say it again for the people in the back. Saying no is not selfish. In fact, it's one of the most powerful acts of self-care you can give yourself. But I get it. The thought of saying no can bring up so many feelings like guilt, fear, or disappointing others, or even losing relationships. Trust me, I have been there. So today we're going to unpack the psychology of why saying no is so hard, practical ways to say no without guilt, and how setting boundaries can completely transform your life. Does that sound good? Let's dive in. All right, let's start first with the psychology behind why saying no just feels so dang hard. So have you ever agreed to do something you just really didn't want to do just to avoid the awkwardness of saying no? Maybe it was staying late at work or volunteering for yet another PTA event or saying yes to a coffee date when you just much rather go home and have a quiet night to yourself. I have been there. You have been there. I know you've been there. We all have been there. And it's not just about the task itself. It's about the feelings underneath it. I have said yes so much in my life when I just really didn't want to because I was afraid of making someone upset or letting someone down or even losing a relationship. In the process, I lost myself because I was trying to be everything to everyone else. So why do we feel guilty? A lot of it comes from conditioning, especially for women. We're often taught to be agreeable, accommodating, and selfless. And saying no can feel like we're letting someone down or being seen as selfish. But here's the thing. When you say yes to the things that drain you, you're actually saying no to yourself. So think about that for a second. Every yes to something misaligned with your values is a no to your energy, your time, and your goals. And you know what? Guilt, it's just a feeling, it's not a fact. It's your brain's way of trying to keep the peace, but peace at what cost? So trust me when I say that my head and heart have screamed no so many times when I have said yes. And I did feel guilty if I said no to something. And I tried to justify why I could do it, even though my heart was telling me just say no. So let's talk about people pleasing for a second, because this is something a lot of us struggle with. And a lot of people pleasing tendencies are actually rooted in childhood. Maybe you grew up in a house where saying no, it was not an option. Or maybe you learned that being helpful or agreeable was just the best way to avoid conflict. It was to keep the peace. So whatever the reason, People pleasing often becomes this difficult mode where we're more worried about making others happy than taking care of ourselves. When I don't want to do something, my sister often tells me, she's going to kill me for this one. She often tells me that sometimes I need to think about other people and their feelings and just do it anyway. So I do think that's true to a certain point, but when it's taking away from my peace and my balance, my joy or happiness, then that's where my boundary line is drawn. Here's what I want you to remember. People pleasing is not the same as kindness. Kindness comes from a place of love and authenticity. It's a place where you're serving others because you want to serve others. People pleasing, on the other hand, comes from a place of fear. And I am here to tell you or remind you that you don't have to live like that anymore. Don't be afraid to say no. Now let's talk about what happens when you say yes too often. Picture this. Your schedule is super packed. You're juggling work, family, friends, all the things. And then someone asks you to take on one more thing. You say yes because you feel like you should, but now you're stressed out, you're overwhelmed, you're maybe even a little bit resentful. Does that sound familiar? I really have a feeling I'm preaching to the choir here. Actually, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but hear me out. This is the ripple effect of overcommitment. It just doesn't affect your time. It affects your energy, your relationships, your overall well-being. And let me tell you, the resentment that builds with you overcommitting is real. It's okay to admit that too. Don't feel guilty or bad about admitting your resentment. It's actually a healthy thing to be able to identify and acknowledging your feeling. And then that starts to set the path for future responses. And here's the good news. Every time you say no to something that doesn't serve you, you're saying yes. You're opening the door to something else that does. So take a moment right now to think about where in your life that your plate is super full. It's overflowing. You're overcommitting. What's one thing that you can say no to today and this week to protect your time and your energy? Is it something at work? Is it a dinner or a coffee date with friend? Is it helping somebody out or taking on another volunteer project? Now, if you journal, this would be a really amazing journal prompt for you. Excuse me. This would be a really amazing journal prompt for you. So take a few minutes to think about it. Set a timer for 5 to 10 minutes and just let your thoughts flow freely. There is no right or wrong answer, but think about your plate, think what you're committed to, and think about the things that you could say no to today or this week to help free up some of your time. So let's get into the practical strategies for saying no gracefully. And it's about the how. Saying no doesn't have to be awkward or confrontational. In fact, it can be one of the most empowering things that you will ever do for yourself. So I'm going to arm you with some scripts. Now, these are just examples. You can feel free to reword them, tweak them, however you want. These are just examples to get you started. Sometimes the hardest part about saying no is how to phrase it. And a couple examples are, thanks so much for thinking of me, but I just can't really take this on right now. So that example, it's very simple, it's clear, and it's kind. Another example is, you know what, I'd really love to help, but I just have other priorities that I really need to focus on right now. So this example is reminding the other person that you're not just saying no for a no reason. You're choosing to honor the commitments that you have for yourself. And then the third example is, you know what, that just really doesn't align with my goals right now, but I really appreciate you asking, and I hope that you can understand. So this example is really great for opportunities that just don't fit within your vision right now. And the beauty of these phrases is that they're kind but firm. You don't owe anyone a long explanation or justification. Your no, it's enough. And again, don't feel guilty about it. Now let's talk about priorities. One of the best ways to feel confident in saying no is to get super clear on what you're saying yes to. And I call this your yes filter. So before committing to anything, ask yourself a few of these questions. Does this align with my goals and values? Do I have the capacity to give this my best effort? Will this bring joy or stress to my life? That last one about bringing joy or stress, that is a big one for me. That is one that I usually, more often than not, I usually ask myself, is this going to help me or is it going to overwhelm me? If the answer to any of these is no, then your answer to the request should probably be no too. Here's the little mindset shift for you. Saying no, it's not closing a door. It's opening the right ones. When one door closes, trust me, another door opens. So maybe you're worried about pushback or actually feeling guilty. Here's how you can handle it. What do you do when someone doesn't take no for an answer? Maybe it's a friend who keeps asking, who keeps pushing. Maybe it's a boss who's pushing your boundaries, or even your own inner guilt voice. That one is big for me. I have that a lot of the time. I am getting better about dealing with that, but here are some tips that I have for you. Be firm but polite. Don't over-explain, because the more you explain, the more room you leave for negotiation. And you need to stand your ground. Remember, it's okay to say no and to repeat the no if needed. And about guilt, it's just temporary. The benefits of protecting your energy, that lasts a lifetime. Now, I want to end with this, and it's the empowering benefits of saying no. And this is where the magic happens. When you say no to the things that don't align with your values, you create space for the things that do. Now imagine your life, it's a garden. Just picture a garden. Every time that you say no to something that drains you, you're pulling a weed. You're making room for the flowers to grow. Now, whether it's spending more time with family, working on your business, or simply having time to rest, there's nothing wrong with having some downtime. Saying no is what makes it possible. It gives you the freedom for the other amazing things in life that align with your goals and your vision. So take a second, pause this podcast if you can, grab your journal again, and spend a few minutes thinking about the things that just don't align with your vision. What is costing you your time and energy and isn't serving you the best that it can? Start to pluck out those weeds and the things that aren't allowing you to step forward. If you don't do this, your goals and vision will be like a never-ending tunnel. It's like the light at the end. It's just going to keep getting further and further away. So say no and don't feel guilty about it. I know what it's like to have an expanding plate that is super overcrowded. And I felt like this for 10 years when I owned a full-service salon and skincare studio in Wisconsin. I kept saying yes to everything. I kept saying yes to my clients, to stay later, to work extra hours, to come in on my day off, I hate to admit this, but there have been so many times where I have missed my kids' events or outings, like sport outings, because I felt I needed to say yes to my client. I was serving everyone else and leaving very little energy for myself. I was the worst version for my family, and they are the ones who need me to be the best version of myself. Not only will this be a physical saver, seriously, it is a mental saver too. So set those boundaries, start to say no, and don't feel guilty about it. Saying no, it's not just about managing your time. It's about reclaiming your power. It's about showing up for yourself in a way that feels authentic and true. And when you prioritize yourself, you're actually showing others how to do the same. It's a ripple effect. All right, love. Let me know what you thought of this conversation, good or bad. And if you do your journal prompt, please take a picture and tag me on Instagram on Facebook as well at I am Courtney Spaeth. I would love to see your progress and share that journey with you. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast. And if anything resonated with you, share this with a friend who might need a reminder too. I would really appreciate it because it helps other amazing people such as yourself find this podcast. I will chat again with you soon. Bye for now.